Boom, we're back.
Are you gonna go boop boop boop? We need
We're
your
back.
boop, 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 boop. Okay, so yeah, we're back, and so now we're gonna do Lon's movie. Lon,
Oh yes, my choice was the Sparks Brothers.
George.
All right, let's watch the trailer.
Throughout all the years that I've been making music, if you get on a tour bus with a bunch of musicians, eventually the conversation will go to Sparks.
I remember just seeing them all the time, like, who are those guys?
They are a band who you can look up on Wikipedia and know nothing.
We are Sparks, dude.
Please welcome Sparks!
Frequently asked questions about Sparks. How many albums are there?
25 albums.
Are you brothers?
We are brothers.
How did you first meet?
We are brothers. Music at its best, you hear it and you go, oh my God, what is that?
It's insane, but it's fantastic.
Each time you'd go to the rehearsal, there'd be something new there. Like, that's good.
It wasn't like anything else.
All pop music is rearranged Sparks. That's the truth.
There are throwaway riffs that other bands have built whole careers out of.
One of my favorite moments is John Lennon ringing up Ringo Starr.
You won't believe what's on the television.
It was the sound of the future.
Sparks is way more prolific than all of the artists we consider to be the greatest in the world.
They sort of set a template that a Beatle would pretend to be Ron. That's amazing.
They were taking all their creative juices and putting it into something that they loved.
They were a bit much for most people.
The culture just wasn't there yet.
Is there anybody out there at all right now?
They've reinvented themselves several times.
The thing that marked them was their unwillingness to give up.
That sounds like the scene from our biopic.
Our time has come.
Here we are.
They may have given birth to other bands who don't even know that the lineage goes back to them.
Still are waiting to get paid back for that.
Why have you resisted doing a documentary until now?
We didn't want to do the standard documentary full of talking heads. It would become too dry.
Boom, we're back.
Lon.
Oh.
Yes.
Tell us.
Well, I want to apologize to George, Susie, and Patty. It's like, okay, my sister told me she had seen this documentary on Sparks, and they actually happened to be a band I liked, but because they were the same type of band that I sort of admired in the 70s, which was basically like Devo and B-52s, that there was a whimsical silliness. So there's always humor in their presentation, almost as if they were performance artists, I would guess, right?
Yeah.
So my introduction to Sparks was actually on American Bandstand, which, believe it or not, they actually showed their appearances there. And he had such a weird vocalization. And I remember comparing it to Queen at one point, their kind of vocalizations,
I agree
right?
with you.
Yet the music was this sort of poppy, and for me personally, I considered it sort of new wave.
And
That's how it did that.
theatrical.
Exactly, right. Like almost over the top, yet
Yes.
a simplicity to it because of the lyrics and everything. So Propaganda was the first album I bought, and I enjoyed it. But I never bought another Sparks album after that until, of course, they get to Angst in My Pants, which to me had so many great songs. But I thought their albums had great songs, but I was never a big
I agree with
fanboy.
you. They had great songs.
So I understand why. I never knew about them, so I thought, you know what? I want to see this documentary. Even though I did meet Russell Mael once, because he came into our video store, and he, of course, he was renting a Godard film. So this was a great introduction for me personally. It's like, oh, I get to know about these two guys. I just knew they were brothers, and Ron Mael playing this, like everyone said, he's a Nazi. He has the Charlie Chaplin mustache, always straight-faced. So there was something very odd every time I watched him, and I was just drawn to him. Yet Russell's the one who had the vocalizations. He had really a high voice. And so as Edgar Wright, as a director who I also admire, because I love things like Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, Scott Pilgrim, I thought he's going to capture the humor at least of this band. And then I didn't realize, oh no, they're interviewing people. What I liked about the interviews of celebrity people who don't even seem associated with the music industry or making comments about what they just thought of Sparks, because Sparks was a odd band in my opinion, because they were ushering in the 80s sound in the 70s. So that's why I think I lost interest in them, because all of a sudden they're unique in the 70s to me, but once they get to the 80s, oh, everybody's doing that sound. But again, it was their humor that I've always enjoyed. And Angst in My Pants is one of my all-time favorite albums from the 80s. So, oddly enough, I was so happy when I watched the movie Valley Girl that they actually included a Sparks song, Eaten by the Monster of Love. So I've always had an attachment to them, but I never knew much about them. And this presented everything about them. And I was sort of enjoyed listening to everyone go on exactly how I felt. And, it's not just, they have people like Mike Myers, commenting on it, what he thought. Right? But to me, it's like Steve Jones. When he talks about that band, said, they're unique. And I can't remember who else it was, but somebody mentioned how they never seemed to care much about fame and money. It really was their art. And I thought maybe that's why they never became popular. But as you watch this documentary, I, as a fan, enjoyed it. It's not one I don't know if a lot of people would like, because it's really specific. But I just thought it was very fascinating of these two guys that you really get to know them. You get to hear commentary about their music, first of all, but then also about their personalities with former band members. Like, I was actually put off the fact that, for example, they had to go to London or England to sort of break through in a way. So they had an American band that played with them, and then they just dropped them. Exactly. Right. They just dropped them and went there. Then they get some certain success and then like 4 to 6 years later, it's like, oh, we're going to go back to California. They completely dropped them as well, the musicians. So I thought, wow, that's weird. But it is one of the British musicians who said, oh no, they weren't into fame or money. So he sort of admired them. I thought, wow, I would have been sort of bitter about that, because they had a nice success.
None of them are. Anybody who's in,
because they showed up to make this documentary.
They said, well, we didn't come with them, but it was like they did not seem to be upset about it or anything.
Well, their parents were for Pacific Palisades. How broke were these guys?
It's also it's different getting dropped by the Sparks than
mother.
They getting dropped by Van Halen.
Oh yeah, no, right. I don't think they were really. I mean, they said they're middle class. You know.
Pacific Palisades is not.
Yeah, but that was Pacific Palisades
in the
1960.
Well, no. We're talking. They were born in the 40s. So the 40s and 50s is when they're talking about that period when they did that.
Remember, they went to UCLA when UCLA was free.
Well, that was the 60s. When they remember when in the 60s, they talked about the mother driving them to go see the Beatles.
To Vegas, in Vegas.
But in a junky car.
Yes.
So that's, I said, I don't think they were wealthy.
She's a single mother.
But
they never mentioned how they made their money. I noticed that.
They made it performing.
Well, they themselves did, right.
They got paid for that, huh?
Well, because like in England, that's what they said. They were making show after show after show. They were getting paid for the shows.
Yeah, this is actually when a record company supported you.
Well, that's another thing, because they really didn't have a record company. Remember, the record company said, you know what? Come back. We're not going to pay for anything else.
This is the era when record companies actually supported you. And
if they thought you're going to make money for them, we're putting you out there. So Sparks was one of those bands that, no, I don't think I do much. So, but I just thought it was interesting, because I like the fact that they mentioned their dad, who's an artist, a painter, and that's how we supported them. They really had they had sort of this, in my opinion, and sort of idyllic kind of upbringing. The father, the pictures they show and everything, that he obviously was really into their lives. Right. They said he painted, when we go to the Santa Monica Pier, he'd paint stuff like that. So that's how they used to see the pier, through his
this is how
paintings.
we see the pier.
Exactly. So you could tell they still had the love for the father, and then the mother they admired, because she had to raise them on her own. And I like the fact that they said they bonded over that, because they really stayed as a family unit. Right. So things like that I really admired. It was when they start their career and they start that's when it gets sort of, in a way, sort of odd for me. Because like, like I said, dumping band members wasn't a good thing, but
welcome to the music business, baby. People do it all the time.
Well, apparently. And yet, things I didn't know about them, which they sort of talk about, were things like I didn't know they appeared in the movie Roller Coaster, which I've never seen the movie Roller Coaster, but I know of the movie Roller Coaster with George Segal, right? And they kept thinking, oh, we're going to break, but they never did. And yet, to hear certain musicians really talk about them, like Beck or something, I think the guy from Faith No More just talking how, oh yeah, they were this, they were that. You know, they were, in my opinion, like I said, they were poppy, new wavy. Then they did sort of a punkish album. I think the third one, they said after Propaganda, that was more punk, that sort of. And so when you see these musicians talk about how influenced they were in the 80s with Depeche Mode, NXS and stuff, which is the people I was listening to. So it's like, that's
Duran
why I
Duran.
didn't, Duran, right? You had Andy Taylor and somebody else talking about that. And it's like, oh, that's probably why I never really continued with Sparks, because now the sound was cliched. But to me, it was always their lyrics. I always laughed. I mean, on Angst in My Pants, there's a song called Moustache where they keep saying moustache, moustache. You know?
What is that song where it's just one?
Actually, we repeat the same line over and over and over.
Oh, again, see, that's what I'm saying. They sort of do that a lot. I mean, that's what's
do.
But the whole song, the entire song is the same line, like
right
through the entire song. George.
But see, that's what I'm saying. I only know the 2 albums, so I don't know their whole. And that's what I said. They were not somebody I just sort of kept up with, and like I said, I'm not a fanboy, so I don't like. I know the Devo. You have the Kavanaugh and. Mother's Bow Brothers in that group, but I know nothing about their upbringing, for example. But I've always liked their music.
You got 2 albums. You're a fan.
Same with the B-52s. You know, I know the members, but I don't really know any other family. And that's what but it's, like I said, I claim it was like performance art. That when I watched these 3 groups, they always presented something, and it always had a sense of humor. And that's what I liked about them. But again, since I'm the fanboy, I got through the film.
You're the fanboy, baby.
But like I said, I don't know if people will find this an entertaining documentary, but I thought it was sort of a fascinating sort of trip through these people's lives. That's all it was for me. It's just to watch what they went through, because now they're in their 70s, you know, and that's why.
2 hours and 20 minutes told you that. Oh my God, it was the longest documentary. I'm trying to think of a band that you could actually. You could actually be that interesting, because bands is always the same thing.
Well, that's the thing.
Hard time, rising to the top, bad time, ooh, good time, you know, and then you die.
Well, but see, this is the funny part, because
there's no funny part in that.
Well, no, because they never rose to the top. That was the thing. That's why I thought it was sort of fascinating. It's like, well, why would Edgar Wright want to do a documentary on a group that was never hugely popular?
Why?
Well, with the exception of, like I said, they were obviously popular sometime in England. And apparently they were popular in Los Angeles, but I wasn't living here at the time. You know, sort of the way I guess the band X, the punk band X, they're hugely popular here. I know in L.A., but I don't think they transpire or are as popular all over.
It might be that they have a cult following too.
Well, that's
X
it.
does.
Remember that's what Sparks does, because they said, remember, like the first album. What was it? I can't remember, but they had the 2 geisha girls on the cover. So
Kimono My House?
Kimono House, there we go, thank you.
And were they smoking?
Oh, I don't know. I actually can't say that. I just know that they became sort of popular in Japan, right? And then they were popular, obviously, in Europe at one point as well. So I thought, you're right, that everyone... Oh, no, it was South America, because Franz Ferdinand they did an album with, right? That they teamed up with him. And because Franz Ferdinand was popular in South America, that all of a sudden the South Americans like, oh, who's this Sparks people? So they sort of got a fan base with that. So, and like I said...
But did you like the documentary?
Like I said, I did. I liked it, but I cannot.
Like them. But then you like them.
Well, like I said, I just want to know more about them because I like the band. Okay. So that's why it was interesting and, like I said, almost fascinating, because I didn't realize how odd they really were until they're actually being interviewed by Edgar Wright at this age now. You know, and still, I'm sorry.
You didn't get a clue there?
I will tell you this.
They were odd at all.
Patty, let me put it this way. When the movie opens, and I hear the music, you see the Universal logo come up, and I'm hearing music, I said, oh, that's Sparks. I know right away. Then, when they start singing some of the title, like an Edgar Wright production, I started laughing. I said, that is so Sparks. So I
Oh,
was
yeah,
so
right,
glad.
yes,
Remember?
right.
Yeah, so I
Yes.
have to admit, I said at least Edgar Wright really
I think
captured
they
what
even were
Sparks
telling you,
were.
produced by.
Did you like it,
directed
George?
by-
Did you like it?
But let's go to George, because
Oh, right.
I-
Yeah, just
so,
good.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I want to see if somebody else
Go to
likes
me.
No Offense. You like Sparks. I'm sorry.
Okay. I actually really enjoyed the documentary.
Okay.
And I'm really surprised that I've never heard of these guys.
Oh.
You know, I grew up in the '80s, kind of along with the years.
He knows every 80s.
And I know everything about the '80s,
Yeah,
and the
he
fact that they
does.
were big in the '80s, and I missed them. I'm totally surprised. You know? So I thought let me see. Okay, yeah, they kind of remind me of Queen. The music reminds me of like what is it? What do you call those movies like Hair and
Oh, sure,
Jesus
like that,
Christ
like
Superstar?
like a
Musicals?
rock opera.
Like a rock opera. The
Oh,
music almost sounds like a rock opera. Like they could actually written one. You know, they could have done a rock opera and then
I think we mentioned that when we were
the
watching
music
it.
sounded like that. I didn't realize how ahead of their time they were too. With like they really were doing. That's one thing the movie showed me, that they were doing stuff long before different acts were doing it, like the synth stuff. You know, long before the 80s, the synth were introduced and all the synth sounds, and they were doing stuff in the 70s. I think Donna Summer was doing that too, but they were Bowie producer, I think.
Well, Giorgio Moroder, that's why, right? In
But
fact, they had Donna Summer.
but they were doing that stuff. They were just so ahead of their time, and also, you know, I saw the Bee Gees documentary.
Oh yeah, that was good.
And Bee Gees.
Oh.
And this reminded me of the Bee Gees as well, because the Bee Gees had to. And actually, funny enough, I saw the ZZ Top documentary too.
Oh wow!
And it reminded me of that too, because these are two acts like the Sparks that changed their sound as they went along. They all sounded different in this decade than that decade. They completely changed their sound, and this new reincarnation of them was big. You know, so these guys, even though they were not successful, they have lasted longer than most pop bands, really. They're still, like I said, I'm sure. In fact, I'm sure now after this documentary, you're gonna go on Spotify. They're probably gonna do a concert at the Forum, Staples Center, you know, and somebody's gonna open for them, you know. So
I hope I can go.
Yeah, I agree.
Let me see. Yeah. Anyway, so and they really, I can see how, because they're so quirky. I can see the keyboard, the piano player, the brother with the mustache.
Ron Mayo.
I can see I can totally see his personality in those songs. I mean, I can really see he's the songwriter. The other day, his brother does the songs, and his brother looks so British to me. In fact, I thought it was a British band when I first started thinking that they're from
Yeah,
here.
they seem British.
To me, it's like one guy looks like total British, 60s British guy, and the other guy looks like uber German kind of.
I thought they were
to be in techno. They just but I found it very entertaining, and yeah, I actually really enjoy that. I love the personalities. You know, they're just so relaxed, so mellow. Yeah, maybe that's why a lot of the band members don't hate them, that they got kicked off, because their personalities, they just seem so laid back. And what was I going to this? The last thing is, there was one song that was just cracking me up. One thing I loved about them too is their songwriting, the song names and the lyrics. They just keep cracking me up. And one was I can't remember that because I don't know that well, but it was like something like. I look okay from a distance.
Yes.
But that's not where you are. That's what I want to be with you. Yeah. I mean, this is just brilliant song.
That's what I do.
Brilliant songwriting. And I was like, I'm always posting memes and writing funny stuff. So I go, these guys, they will be brilliant at writing memes. And they would be anyway. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
That's a new thing to look at then. Yeah, dude, the Sparks memes.
Sparks memes. Hey, you heard it here first. You can send me the check now.
No, I agree with you, George. I was like, okay, how long have we been around? You've been in the music business. I've worked around the music business my whole adult life. Never heard of this band. Oh, wow. How can a band that? And as I was watching, I thought it was going to be like a sad story. Oh my God, these guys were actually quite successful, but they were and they were that's why I can't believe I've never heard of them. Right? It was like
even bad bands you hear of. You know what I mean?
Exactly. When you said X,
doesn't exist.
I know X. These guys are more successful than X, right? It's like, okay. However, they are amazing, which I think they're amazing. This was directed by Edgar Wright and the brothers Ron and Russell Mael. Okay, here's the cheeky part of the thing. The documentary is over 2 hours and 220.
221.
And it's not free.
Yeah, but we give it
That's balls. That's balls.
It wasn't $20. It was $30.
You paid
$30.
Yeah.
No.
Wasn't it 30?
Black Widow was 30.
Oh, 30.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say no. I only paid 20.
Money
it was
for
like,
that?
I paid twice to watch it. So.
Okay,
but you're a fan.
And you know what? We played it. We sat there, and I enjoyed all 2 hours and 20 minutes of it.
Good.
I thought they were amazing. Okay, like Patty, you
after
mentioned.
Patty left, we're still watching.
You know, like no, like you said, Patty. They remind me of the Tubes, Frank Zappa.
Oh no, they're not even near the Tubes.
Oh, they're way better than the Tubes. It was
God, no.
It's like if the Tubes and Queen got together.
Oh my God. Sorry, Queen.
And they
Sorry,
had a baby,
Tubes.
it would be the Sparks Brothers. It was like they are so theatrical. In fact, I'm so surprised they're from California. I would think they'd be from New York. I would think like Andy Warhol, that kind of, you know, avant-garde. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
That's what they were successful in Germany and Europe and in England.
In fact, when I'm watching the movie, I was like, this band would do much better in Europe.
Yeah, because in the States, I don't get it.
and I thought it was so funny because they mentioned one of our favorite bands. It's like, they got booked as the starter band in Texas.
For Cold Blood.
Yeah, they got Cold Blood. We love Cold Blood. Oh my God!
You want to hear a good band and then listen to Sparks. That's the difference,
It's
right?
It's a different world.
They're very different. And I love Cold Blood. And they opened for them, and it was like everybody hated them, right? Because they're very,
good taste.
You know, it's like. You know how the salsa commercial goes? New York City? This salsa's from New York City?
It's like I'm gonna go CC Top or I'm gonna go see Depeche Mode. You know, it's a different style.
Yeah, it's a different feel. And it was like, I would have loved that show. You know, I like them both. I love them both. I thought their music was so good. It was like I don't know, there was something about a girl. I can't remember what it was. The song had a girl in it. They had the name.
It's just the lyrics.
It was so funny. They were so witty, and they were so great. I would love this band. I do love this band. Okay, Patty?
I disagree with you. Yours was the stupidest band. You know, funny enough, the titles of their songs were really interesting, but they couldn't write a lyric if it came to them. But funny enough, these guys are likable. Musically, they suck.
And believe me, you can still see them
now. And don't even
now.
put Queen or Cold Blood or the Tubes, because these are much more sophisticated bands. And I wish they had a different genre, but it would not be known as music. But likability, these guys are real likable.
Well, it's like looking at a Picasso painting.
No,
it's not for everybody.
Yes, I agree.
Picasso had talent.
I agree. It's not Renoir.
These guys are likable.
Or what's American Graffiti or Picasso? You know.
No, and no band is 2 hours. Hardly any movie is 2 hours and 20 minutes. You know, and
loved every minute of it.
I know they did. I think I gave up after 2 hours.
I loved it.
I was ready to sleep.
I was like, how come I kept going, how come I've never heard of this band?
Because they suck.
Because I know, even if I don't like them, I know them. Do you know what I mean? I know the bands. I've been living in Los Angeles my whole life, worked around the music business. It was like, and I never heard of them.
That's amazing that we haven't heard. But I'll tell you something. And the one thing I kept thinking is, you know, if you have really good advertisers, you can take a bag of poop and make it desirable.
Yeah, but
and that's what they did.
Make it worth in gold.
You know why? And what's it called? Fertilizer.
Right.
Yeah.
And I thought, all the promo that they're doing with this to build these guys up, I thought that's what they've done. But I got to tell you, the guys were likable.
No, excuse me. They didn't do. They were not
No,
successful.
I'm talking about the actual documentary.
What I'm saying is they were not successful. We would never have heard of the documentary.
You know,
if it wasn't
Jason
for Lon.
Schwartzman came up on.
I know. Damn you.
Jason Schwartzman came up in, talked in the documentary too.
Yes.
And I go, this feels like a Jason Schwartzman movie too. He's, the movies he's in, the documentary felt like those kind of like Lars and the Real Girl, that kind of
great movie.
And let me say one other thing that I thought was interesting. That movie was 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yes, it was.
And I don't know a damn thing about their personal life.
They always kept that out.
That's not true. Like I said,
were they married? Do they have children? I know nothing about
you're talking
it.
about that aspect. No, you know about their childhood, but not what their life
No,
is
I don't
today.
know any more about
that.
I thought that was rather amazing.
One guy dated one of the Go-Go's girl, but that's all you know. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I never even knew that. That when Jade Wheatland shows up, I said, and then they showed her right on singing with him on American Bandstand. I was like, wow. See, even I didn't even know that she appeared with them because it was probably at that moment when Katie from the B-52s sang with REM. That they were cross mixing,
Right.
but MTV really changed the music scene during the 80s.
But actually, that was the one song.
As Christy, what's her say? Chrissy from the
Heinz.
Heinz said MTV killed the music business.
But the one that's the one song that they showed with her. That's the one I kind of recognized because I was a big MTV guy, and I was like, oh yeah, that one sounds familiar to me.
And to me, what was funny is no, I didn't even know the song. I just cracked up that they talked about the dance. That it became known as the Molly Ringwald dance, right?
Yeah,
because
I
of
remember
Breakfast
that
Club.
dance.
The Charleston,
Yeah. So
But
I like the fact you said, that Jane Wheatland said, oh yeah, they stole that dance from.
I'm dying to see the scores here.
The French Prince, Alfonso Ribeiro.
Yeah.
He really made that.
What's his name? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So are we ready to?
yeah.
Okay. So your movie, your George.
As a documentary, I like that. I give it as a documentary. I give it a 10.
I give it a documentary 10 too.
I gave it a 1.
I give it a 6. So.
Wow, and you like them.
Well, as I said,
and he likes them.
I like the band, but the movie, like I said, it's not something I can highly recommend to a lot of people.
Well, I
see
do.
That.
It's fantastic.
Like
I want to thank you so much for recommending it.
That's why I apologize.
It's kind of like something happens in the world that you're in. And it was actually quite big in the world that you're in. And you know nothing about it. Just for that, it made me really interesting as a piece of music history that I knew nothing about. Yeah. It's like finding a great archaeological find. It was like, wow. Okay, so
we'll be back with, what's the next movie?
Black Widow.